It really is an honor to represent the Male Allies Against Sexual Violence program. I think it's a really important initiative of the Sexual Assault Support Center of Kitchener-Waterloo, the Waterloo region. In terms of your question about why I'm involved in the work of ending gendered violence, the first thing I would say is I actually have stopped using the language of gendered violence. For me, really, the issue is male violence. And I've started to say that what I want to do is end male violence. For me, otherwise, I think we're at risk of continuing to fault victims. I think the problem is that men are assaulting women. The problem is that men are assaulting children, girls and boys, and other men. The problem is that men are treating women with hate, contempt, and violence, and largely men like me are choosing to remain silent about these issues. So it's important to me that we name the issue as male violence. The second reason that I'm involved is that I think it's really important for men like me to stand up and to say that what happened in Montreal is not okay, that it's not okay for a man to murder women because they are women. Again, I think it's important that men stand up and speak out against that. Thirdly, I do this work because I want to draw attention to the fact that what happened in Montreal was very public, but most of the time violence is acted out in private spaces within the home. I think we need to recognize and acknowledge that most of the time we don't publicly see the impacts of male violence. And then fourth, I do this work because I grew up in a violent home. I grew up in domestic violence. I was abused as a child, and I understand the impacts of violence. I know what it's like to grow up in fear. I know what it's like to sort of live under the thumb of patriarchy and male violence. So this issue is personally very important to me. And then finally, I really think I have an obligation, a responsibility as a man to stand up and speak out against male violence. And I have an obligation and a responsibility to encourage other men to do so as well. Again, if we're talking about gender violence, the issue really is male violence, and we really have to have other men and other boys in our community standing up and speaking out against it. And really that's why the Male Allies program exists. I wish I could do more with the program. Unfortunately, I'm a volunteer and I can't always, but how I also do this work is I bring it into my teaching at Conestoga College. It's really important to me as I train future criminal justice professionals to understand that we have issues with male violence, we have issues with what masculinity means in our society, and so I try and bring a Male Allies framework to my teaching.